Hello and what is up everybody, welcome back to another replay commentary. This one I'm going to have another IO gameplay for you guys from Zai himself, from EG of course. I think you guys should know that, but this is from a pub game I believe he played on stream yesterday. Dota D Bowie mentioned it on his Twitter. I tracked down the game, found it through EG.Zai. Unfortunately, Zai actually has his Dota buff privated, so I had to check the players on the stream, and fortunately I was able to recognize EG.Zai. He had his Dota buff activated, so I was able to just check his look for the Arc Warden game and found this one. So let's just skip through and get right into the replay, everyone. I will be focusing mostly on Zai's player perspective in this replay analysis. I will be moving around a little bit, speeding up the replay at certain points if the game gets slow, but hopefully it won't have to. Hopefully the game stays interesting, because I don't want it to drag on for too long. My voice is a little dry as well. I haven't drank water before this, which I immediately regret. I don't want to get water right now and interrupt the analysis or have to re-record or whatever. I'm just gonna do it, fuck it. But as we get who has a stronger tower, looks like Zai has a stronger tower. It looks like they're probably gonna win. I believe they do win, so let's check it out here. We'll have it on player perspective for now, and he randomed IO. It feels good. He actually I mean, he had to. Random IO. That's ultimate feels good, man. What the fuck's wrong with my... Alright, there we go. That's why it bugs out and the camera doesn't follow. What the fuck's going on? Did you just... Alright. That was weird. I wasn't really what he was doing there. Well, he clicked follow command onto the clock. But he does tether the clock. It gets out, drops the ward with him. And if the enemy TP's out, the ward will be spotted, but the tether movement speed, no, it is nerfed. That's so sad. I forgot by how much. It's like by 2% or something overall. Let's check it out. There's nothing gonna happen right now. Actually, I should pause it. Team fight actually breaking out. Let's check the recent IO nerf. I don't know the actual numbers. I believe it was by 2%. Let's just check it out real quick. IO. Where am I fucking going? Tether move speed 3% at level 1. That's significant. It's still the same when maxed out, so it's only going to be a big deal at the early levels. But considering this was 20%, guys. Before, this was already nerf numbers. Before, it was 20% at all levels, and then they made it scaling. And then they've been nerfing this progressively. Red play button. Feels bad, man. But anyway, keep in mind this used to be 20%. That was so much stronger. It allowed you to go for dives, just outspeed your enemy, kite them. And this does make him a lot weaker level 1 in terms of just trading and just early level 1 engagement. So let's see how Zai actually plays this one out here. In my opinion, he should just run here. There's no way he's going to be able to fight against these heroes, and let's see what happens. So he's going to try to run away with his clockwork here. I believe Sladen has already committed his role. He indeed has done so. So Zai going to back himself away. He's still playing pretty forward here because he has this ward, and he can always tether to clock, and he actually will move back in here. I'm actually not so sure about this one, and yeah, he's not so sure about it either. I believe they could have gone on them. But level 1 clockwork is really strong. They did see that Zai already has a bottle. He would not have played like that at all if he didn't have his bottle already. But the fact that he did random and have his bottle in his inventory, he will be able to play a little bit more aggressively. But you see there, even before the movement speed nerf, you wouldn't go for play like that level 1 3v2. And we see that he does back away. Because 10%, I mean, it is something, but it is 3% less than before. What is that actually? What are we trying to say here? What is that actually? What the fuck? What is the word for this? Translate into in terms of numbers. It looks like, so when he's tethered, it gives 324. So this is pretty much just going to encourage the IOs that do go bootless to probably buy boots, as the tether move speed will not really be enough to just get you around at a decent pace, especially I mean, I guess it affects both heroes, right? So you're not speeding up your teammate as much either. So in terms of being able to catch up to them or whatever, it's not going to really matter there, because it's not like you're making them move faster and you're moving slower. But just in terms of your own move speed, if there's like any slows on you or anything like that, you definitely want to go boots. And we'll see what Zai actually decides to go for here. And one thing to note is he also picked up a TP immediately with his bottle, and he still hasn't used any charges. And notice he's still playing for the trade game here. He has 3 tangos, or I believe he started with 4, as he pulled some tangos and they gave it back to him. And notice that he actually did start with the Clockwork in the off lane, because he feels like this lane can be contested. Clockwork is really strong hero at level 1 with his battery assault, and at level 2 he gets the cogs, and it will allow him to set up that kill there. As I getting the first blood, they will trade a kill in return. I actually don't get to hear that sound too often, but that is the Arcana first blood sound effect. I mean, during my 24-hour IO stream, I did get a ton of first bloods, but I haven't been playing the hero that much and since then, so I haven't heard that in a while. But it's a nice sound. It's similar to the sound he plays when he gets a kill, but it's a little bit different. So actually, we're gonna go back and see how they set up the first blood there. This is a really big deal, by the way. And we're gonna go to free camera, because Zai didn't really do most of the work in here. He just supported his clock. Alright. The most important thing is Zai made sure that he didn't sap Clockwork's level. I guess they're actually completely sharing levels here. So they just shared levels, and they waited until they're level 2. And immediately once level 2 hit, Zai got level 2 and Clockwork got level 2. And that's a huge power spike for them, as they will have access to battery assault as well as power cogs, and they can also go for a dive, as Zai is able to give him that extra damage resistance with the overcharge, and also bottle him up. He can't bottle right now because of the dual breath, and because Zai did get hit by the dual breath, that is the reason why the Clockwork died. But just notice, as soon as both the heroes hit level 2, they saw that the Jakiro was slightly out of position, and you gotta say slightly. He was still pretty deep behind his creep wave and pretty close to his tower, but it was out of position enough so that both Zai and Clock can catch up to him with the tether move speed and trap him in the cogs and the battery assault, allowing them to get that first blood. And look at the enemy team's levels here. We're actually bugged. So we'll play the game again. But if you look at their levels, let's rewind it a little bit here. We see the Jakiro is still level 1 and the Void is still level 1. And the reason behind that is, if you look at the first creep wave, this kill was set up all the way back here. All the way back here. Notice what's going on here. The creep wave got onto the enemy range creep right here, and the range creep dies. They made sure that they did secure the last hit, or at least the kill. Let's see what Zai actually, yeah. He secures the last hit there. Make sure that they did get the experience from that, because otherwise they would not have reached level 2 after this one creep. And notice they're preparing for this kill already. I don't know if Zai vocalized anything, as I actually watched the stream VOD, but it was muted at some point, so it didn't really bother. He might have said something, but both the heroes hit level 2, and they're going to commit for a kill right there on Jakiro. He was not out of position very much, but they noticed that the enemy creep wave is dead, and this is the perfect time to get a kill, and they still lose kill afterwards. The Clockwork does die as Sladen rolls in, but notice how that kill is set up. And the only reason why I'm focusing so much on this kill is it's extremely important to them winning this lane, because let's say if they didn't get that kill there, they didn't utilize every power spike that they had in this lane, eventually Sladen can just go for pulls, or the Jakiro can go for pulls, and once all these heroes get level 2, at that point the Dire team has a power spike to get a kill on either Clockwork or Zai if he's out of position. And so they will secure them first blood there, and with that Zai can buy his items, and it's going to make it so that this lane is a lot harder to deal with for Dire. So that's going to be enough about that. It's going to be all for that first blood analysis there, and it will trade. And notice that Clockwork will TP in and refill Zai's bottle, meaning that he doesn't have to go for a banner rune or the real rune or anything like that. While Sladen actually going to go for the rune himself, as he's going to roll over the cliff. So let's go back to Zai's player perspective and check out what else happens here. And notice that they're actually also going for these side pulls. It was stacked up. I'm not so sure who stacked it up. It might have been the Jakiro or Sladen or Zai. I wasn't paying attention, but someone stacked it up. They were going to get the pull. This is a very big deal that they went for that one, because it's going to allow them to pull the creep wave back. Because at this point, the enemy heroes are level 2. If you click on them, you see Jakiro's level 2, the Void's level 2, and Sladen is level 2. At this point, it's going to be dangerous for Zai and Clock to play in this lane, and he's actually gonna just leave the lane. He realizes that he's just gonna send Clockwork to get the experience under tower, and instead he's gonna go for a surprise gank onto the Death Prophet in the mid lane. Unfortunately, Death Prophet a bit too strong here with the Spirit Siphon, will just manage to walk it off. Just not go close to going down there, but it's a nice attempt from Zai, and now he can just help his Tiny out a little bit, give him a bit of Tango regen as well as Bottle regen. He's actually stealing some lasses here. It's a bit of a support tax, but early game items are pretty important for IO. Getting early raindrops up, boots, stick as well, will turn these early game engagements. And any time where you're falling a little bit behind in terms of itemization high in the early game, you're always feeling bad and useless. And it's important that he gets any item that he can, and in turn he'll help enable his carries. So I don't think, well, it says Snake King, but I don't think this is actually Snake King. It's some other player who's 8k. I know Snake King, and this is definitely not his account unless it's him on a Smurf. I actually don't know who this is. Just to mention notable players in the game, I believe Zai, EG.Zai, of course, Arc Warden in the safe lane. He's just recently started streaming. I do like his stream, and I believe this is Yawar, and of course Sladen. I think he was from Ecuador, the Ecuadorian prodigy. But anyway, Zai will make a small trip to the mid lane. Not much to be done there anymore, so he decides to walk back top, but instead he's gonna run into Sladen as Sladen gets the roll onto him, but he's gonna be able to get away, and he doesn't manage to get his magic stick off in time, and he will go down in the back line here, being flanked by the Death Prophet as well as the Night Stalker. And nighttime had just hit about 40 seconds ago, but will he be able to get in time here to save this Tiny? I want to call him a Snake King, but I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, it's not Snake King. He will be able to TP back onto the shrine and save Snake King. So it looks like Zai is still not going for boots now. It's actually not that important this game, I would say. If he's gonna get run down by heroes, he's gonna get run down anyway, because Night Stalker is way too fast, Earth Spirit has a mobility spell, and Jakiro's slow is just way too much, so even if he does have boots, he's not gonna get away. The only way he's gonna get away in this game is gonna be able to tether out, so he's just playing for his earn, which I'm okay with. At this point, I probably would have bought boots, but I feel like just having the casual circlet as well as the ring of protection. The only reason why I wouldn't go earn this early is he still has 5 charges on his raindrop. You know, I would wait until I find a little bit more use out of it. Get boots up first and then get earn probably afterwards, right afterwards, before Magic Wand, if he does decide to even go for Magic Wand, which I believe he should. I mean, it's good, this game. It's not bad. There's a lot of heroes that like to spam spells on the enemy team, and he was rotating down there to try to help out his buddy, but unfortunately he wasn't able to save him. I didn't commit for the tether or anything like that, so he will be able to get out. It doesn't put himself at risk, and he's gonna find himself in a nice arcane rune. And it's actually a really good rune on IO. Allows him to have his spirits off cooldown a lot faster, and he can just spam it, get the double spirits up, and it's a lot of damage at this point. Oh fuck, we run into a little bit of lag here, unfortunately. Look at that, it's about 250 damage per set of spirits if he hits it all on one person, so in total 500 magic damage, and he will go immediately into his earn. So not opting to just get any use out of his raindrops there. I gave him a little bit of mana regen, but now he's gonna be grouped up with the Clockwork once again, because you notice the Clockwork's level, he's level 4. And he's very good against Jakiro, because he ever gets on top of him, Jakiro cannot cast any spells. So as you saw there, they're going to be able to tether up, get the extra move speed, catch up to the Jakiro. Once he gets caught by a battery assault, it pretty much spells his death. And Void, of course, can't really do anything to contest that at all. And they did see that the Night Stalker as well was in the bottom lane. I think he got a kill there. Indeed, he did kill the Dazzle, but that was their goal pretty much, to try to get a kill. And he did see a gank come onto the mid lane. Already the Dazzle was there, so Zai is going to be able to TP in and save Tiny in time. Going to use his magic stick there, heal him up. Exorcism was committed. Notice his spirit usage here, trying to get as much damage as possible onto this Death Prophet, and might allow him to secure the kill. Unfortunately, he did not get an Urn charge from that kill top, as I believe his Urn was still arriving, but it will not matter as they're still going to be able to take out the Death Prophet there. And now as Clockwork rotates in as well, they will not be able to fight the enemy on the Shrine, and they need to dodge the stun from the Earth Spirit. Dazzle won't do so, but Zai will. And so they get away. Sick play there. That was a huge Death Prophet kill. They definitely thought they had the Tiny there, but with Dazzle already being in position, as well as Zai TPing in as well, it's very important at this point in time to have TP scrolls on Aya. The amount of heal, burst heal that you could give a teammate when the enemy is diving tower, anything like that, is insane, and allow you to turn around these early game ganks and just win the early game super hard. And it kind of just forces the enemy to play passive in the early game, and it will favor farming heroes that can just take use of this time, make use of this time, and just get their farm up. That's why it was so popular a pick with Bristleback, where IO Bristleback would just be able to get free farm in the early game. Even if they weren't able to play aggressively, the enemy wasn't going to be able to very aggressively on you, so you can just feel free to stack Ancients, farm up to your heart's content, and it's just a very hard combination to take down. And once a Bristleback receives free farm, he becomes a constant threat to the enemy team, as he will be nigh unkillable in teamfights, raid boss status. So we did see EG.Zai also rotate into this top lane here, and the reason why he did this is he's probably not feeling safe in the bottom lane, as his heroes rotated in and Night Stalker's there. Night Stalker is an off lane Night Stalker, so level 6 is available for him, and they're just gonna decide to let their safe lane tower go. Very smart play from EG.Zai there. As for Zai, how is he looking in terms of items and levels? He has his boots up now. Will not go for a magic wand quite yet, if he decides to go for it at all. The thing about magic wand is it's a really nice item, but if you're running low on item slots, you really don't want to commit all that gold for magic wand to just sell it shortly afterwards, especially if you're like in a snowball game. So he will just decide to stick with the stick for now. It's funny, but they're gonna just go for a straight dive here onto the Death Prophet. Zai is level 5. Notice level 5 spirits further increase in damage as well, and so he will be able to hit the orb, secure that kill with 3 heroes onto the Death Prophet. Pretty hard hero to dive, but they do manage to do so. Tiny with a lot of burst damage. They're gonna go for a further dive there. So let's switch back to Zai player perspective here. I notice he's gonna be able to keep up the Tiny with the Urn, and including the heal from Dazzle, as well as an insane amount of sustain, so they can really just play super aggressively in terms of diving towers. And they might just decide to turn this gank around, as Death Prophet Akiro as well as the Earth Spirit come in to try to kill the Tiny, but look at the heal. They would just turn it right around. They take out Sladen, and Zai is level 6 now. Relocate is online. Night Stalker uses Night there as well. And so they're going to have a bit of a timing window until the next nighttime. They find the stack here as well. So I will actually commit his magic stick to heal the Tiny. Something that you don't really want to do too much. You want to save it for ganks, but he just wants to top off the Tiny because they realize that we'll be fighting soon. They want to try to catch out the Void here, but he does get his time walk away. The Tiny does catch up to him, and they will toss him back into the Clockwork. Oh, don't manage to trap him in the cogs as time leaps away. He will make his escape. Notice that Radiant are grouped up right now. EG.Zai has his Midas, and where's the relocate? What side? Oh, he's just relocating to base. This is something you can do. There's really no potential to go for aggressive relocates at this time. Dire heroes have a lot of ways to turn around the gank, including Chronosphere. Death Prophet's very hard to go on if she just has any backup from her team, either the Jakiro or the Earth Spirit. And because of how Zai wants to play now with his team, I think that this relocate back to base just to refill his bottle and pick up his item is entirely worth it, as it will allow him to have a full bottle once again, heal up his teammate as well as he comes back in and tethers with the pool regen. And it's a very big deal, as they want to always top themselves off. as they will not be able to fight against the dire heroes as they have a lot of damage. Look at this, Macro Fire, Earth Spirit. Let's see if he's level 6. He's not quite level 6 yet, and EG.Zai still does end up going down here as he gets caught up there by Sladen. They will get a kill though onto the Night Stalker, so it's a 1-for-1 trade off laner for support. Not the worst trade in the world, and Zai will go for the Magic Wand pickup. So let's look at Tiny's build here real quick and see what he'll be going for. Going for a more classic build, Power Treads into Blink, and then he'll go for an Echo Saber here. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Kind of lacks move speed. Doesn't have a drums or anything like that as of now, but of course he does have the Blink Dagger. He contemplated going for a straight axe there, but he decided that he wanted the extra attack with the Echo Saber. It's very good on Tiny. So Zai will meet up with Tiny once again. He does have relocate up, but once again it's very hard to set up a relocate gank in this game because keep in mind the only hero that can set up a gank for them is the Clockwork, and even then on heroes like Void, of course they're not going to be able to kill him as he will just time a walk away after it gets hook shotted. They'll have to time the relocate very well to kill the Void, and it looks like Zai and Tiny might have overextended here. They wanted to go for a big wraparound onto the enemy arrows, but they're going to run into too many, and of course the Shrine is available as well. Grave going to come out to save the Tiny, but it looks like this will be a disastrous fight for Zai's team. They're going to lose 2, and they might just lose more here. Clockwork in a lot of trouble. He will be able to TP out after the Void from the Night Stalker, and Dazzle gets away as well. So they'll only lose Zai and Tiny, but it's a pretty big deal as this was their attempt at pushing the bottom lane, but they played a little bit too deep into the enemy territory, and they will get punished for it heavily. Meanwhile, it looks like Void did take out the top tower, or at least he's just pushing top. I'm not sure if the tower was dead already. I believe they did just kill it. Yeah, indeed he did. And he will be going straight into Lincoln Sphere. I just woke up like a couple hours ago as I was banned from queuing, so I just fucking took a nap. So I'm sorry if I'm saying a bit of gibberish on what I'm saying actually, but it's whatever. I feel like this commentary is going relatively smoothly so far. And as far as a game, it's definitely a close game, and there's a lot to learn from these type of IO games. And it's not a straight early game stomp, and Dire has a fairly good lineup, and I'm gonna assume there's gonna be some ratting in this game as well, so we can learn from that. It was something that I did mention before. Zai tried for a relocate out of the Chrono there, and he just didn't find an angle. He didn't want to relocate Tiny out, which he actually could have if he repositioned himself, as he was in a bad position. Let's go back and watch that. Actually, this is an important thing, and you can learn from it. So the thing is, Zai's team, they run into Jakiro here. They just want to go for a kill, but instead they see Yawar here on the Death Prophet. They want to kill him. Tiny does try to go for a toss back. A bit of a miscommunication here with Zai and Tiny, as ideally they want to toss Yawar further back, but you just see how hard a Death Prophet is to take down as she gets the Spirit Siphon off. The Grave comes out onto Zai, and Zai wanted to save Snaking here, but notice he should have ran down a little bit more, but he was really afraid of dying. He wanted to stay behind these trees, and he couldn't tether to Snake King, as it would have been broken. The relocate would have been broken if he hit the Chrono. If he timed it exactly perfectly, so the relocate came out immediately as soon as he tethered, before he like made any movement at all, he would have been able to save Tiny here. But it looks like as a result, Tiny will go down. Zai comes back in and will be ignored, and notice that he wanted to stay behind the trees there so that he could potentially bring the Tiny back. It was in more or less a hidden position, and that was a potential for a huge play there from Zai. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure what he was trying to do there. It looks like he was trying to save Dazzle. Maybe his tether. Hold on, let's go back, check it out. So I wasn't really paying attention to his cooldowns. No, he had relocate up. He gets scraped up here. We'll just pause it here real quick. So notice he channels to relocate. I think he wanted to tether the Tiny here. Hold on. Can we not see the range? Oh, he wouldn't have been in range for the Tiny tether as well. So just notice here. Tiny was just barely out of range for his tether, and if he moved up anymore, he was afraid that he was going to die, as he was just Grave, remember, so he was very low, and he did not want to die. He wanted to survive, and as a result, he's just going to let his Tiny go. I don't think I would have made that play any differently. Just watching it backwards, you do see that there was a potential for a huge play there, but fortunately, does not work out for Zai, and he'll just go back. He'll survive, notice, as he was in a pretty secured position with his relocate, and he's going to be able to heal up his Clockwork. And they still do get the Death Prophet kill. At the end of the day, the enemy team used Chrono, so it was not the worst engagement there at all for the Radiant team. They used the Dire's cooldowns. Exorcism was used as well, I believe, yep. And so, even though Zai does not manage to save his teammate, they lose the Dazzle there, they lose Tiny, but they take out the Death Prophet, and they're just going to go back. And is that a gank coming out? Is it like EG.Zai? It looks like they were trying to gank for sure here. And just notice Zai's itemization now, he went back into another set of raindrops. As it's still very good on the hero, and they will find a kill there onto the Jakiro, set up by the Dazzle's ward over here. As I gets a kill, and we get to hear that nice Arcana sound effect. And one thing about the Void is he actually went back into a Midas, realizing that what will Linken's actually do for him at this point. So he's regretting his itemization a little bit, and he'll actually go for the Midas. And now we see relocate gank aggressively from Zai. And one thing to note before we cover this is just look at the enemy team and where they're positioned. What the fuck? Is that? Alright, this is a bit of a bug. So they see the Night Stalker and they realize that he's most likely alone, as the Death Prophet just showed herself mid. Of course, if the Void was here as well, he doesn't have Chrono. He'll come in. What's this cooldown Chrono? About 30 more seconds. And they will not be able to get the kill, however. So that's one thing to note about relocating aggressively. They're actually very risky, and a lot of times you don't really want to do it unless it's going to be a big kill. And killing Night Stalker there would have been a big deal, as he's a lot of the Dire's pick-off potential in these team fights before, without Chrono, right? His silence is a very big deal. He provides a lot of extra damage as well. So they want to take him out, and they could potentially play aggressively afterwards. But unfortunately, Night Stalker is just way too hard to track down. He popped Nighttime, he was able to juke and Jai. They did not have the damage to take him down, so it turned out to be a relatively good play for the Radiant just because of how things played out there. They relocated back in position. The rest of the team was there waiting to try to take out Zai. They do take out Zai, but they committed way too deep, as Zai did have the rest of his teammates there as well. And so it will end up as a 3-for-2 trade, I think. So the thing about when they went on the Night Stalker there, it kind of forced the Void in, and so they know that 2 heroes are going to be top, so at most 3 were going to be here. And since Zai had the rest of his team here as well, they kind of set up a fight that was uneven in numbers for the enemy team, as the Void's attention, of course, was drawn here, and so was Night Stalker. He was the one who was getting gone on, and so he wasn't able to show up right away. And it looks like the Tiny, as well as I, want to go for another gank, but nice scan from Dire will spot them out, so no one will get caught. Notice Zai's itemization as well. He's going straight for a mech. Mech is very big in this game. I did mention that they already have a lot of sustain from the Dazzle, but having that extra burst heal from Mech as well means that Zai can not only save a teammate, once he tethers to them, you get the double Mech heal, you can save a teammate in Chrono. There's a lot of damage over time, as I said, on the enemy team, and just having that heal is very important to surviving these fights. And as I say, that Zai goes down, unfortunately. As did Dire have a ward there, or they just were able to predict? Alright, we have some Russian spam. So they're just able to predict where Zai was, because of course they did scan him out previously when they saw them walk up, so they're able to relatively guess where Zai would be, and they caught him out there with the Earth Spirit. Sladen God, but it's not too big of a deal at this point. It will set Zai back a little bit in terms of his mech timing, but of course it's better than a Tiny going down. Of course, imagine like if the Tiny got gone on, Zai probably would have just relocated him out and then leave himself to die. But notice where both Zai as well as Tiny are farming though, they're farming in a relatively risky position because they notice that they do have the potential to just get out of any gank with the relocate, as well as they're pretty mobile as well. And alright, Zai gonna go down here again. That's unfortunate. He's just getting hunted. But notice with his positioning. Oh, he might just get out as snaking or wanted. I tried to avoid calling this Tiny snaking for so long, but finally slips out there. But Tiny will manage to almost save Zai there, but he will actually look like he'll lose his life for it, and they might lose more here, as this is kind of save your teammate syndrome. They're going to lose Dazzle for sure, as he goes just down right now, and Clockwork might end up dying as well. He's trying to juke into the trees. He doesn't have TP, and he's a goner. So big play there from the Dire, and they just showed a very good understanding of how they were to approach a gank against a Tiny combination or Tiny IO combination. They need to go on Zai, and they had the ward set up here. Is it still set up? I believe it just expired, or it was de-awarded or something, but they had the ward set up here. They saw that Zai was in this area. Of course, they knew that he was going to hide in the trees, so the two positions he would be, right, as an IO player, you would be either positioned over the right here to try to block off any ganks with your Tiny, or like in these trees, and then to go for a relocate out. So if the Dire checked both, they noticed that the Tiny was in lane, so they did know IO was nearby, and so they get the kill there onto Zai. The rest of his team try to save him. They all go down, but as soon as they respawn, they're going to be able to go back in and get a kill there onto the Jakiro. Not the biggest pick off, but it's something. Zai gets the kill as well, so that's going to help out his mech situation a little bit there. In the meantime, notice that EG.Zai has just been AFK farming. He's actually pretty farm. I forgot to open up the net worth graph, but notice that he is at the top. Arc Warden farming with a Maelstrom as well as a Midas. He gets up there in the numbers. Let's just go to free camera as we're in it real quick to just check items and things like that, so we have a better understanding of the state of the game. Looks like Snake King will have a Echo Saber. He's called him Snake King again. Tiny will have an Echo Saber. And look at what Zai actually decided to go for here as his level 10 talent. You notice that there's not that much physical damage coming out from the Dire. I'm sure Night Stalker right clicks, Death Prophet ultimate, and the Void provide a decent amount of physical damage, but even in Void, a lot of his damage is coming from the bash, and that is magical, of course. So he wants that 10% magic resistance just to survive against, as I said before, the huge AoE damage over time abilities from the Dire team, whether it's Macro Fire, the Magnetize from the Earth Spirit, Dual Breath, Liquid Fire, and all of that, and of course the Spirit Siphon as well. And looks like EG.Zai gonna fall. That's unfortunate. Where is Zai? He did TP out. I think he wants to just prioritize farming his mech now, and this is when I expect him to kind of like split away a little bit from his Tiny, just so that he can farm jungle, maybe some creep waves he can never get a chance to, and he might just be doing that right now, but maybe not. It looks like he will be grouping up with his Tiny right now, because I think they do want to go for a push in the bottom lane, and if they're going to do that, they do need to support the Tiny with IO, otherwise he'll just die. But Zai might end up dying here again, as Dire is already prepared for this. And they see Snake King, so they're going to assume IO is there. And here's the Night Stalker. Here comes the Night Stalker. Oh, Zai gets gone on by the Void, but Tiny's going to be able to turn it around. Unfortunately for them, though, Death Prophet is here. The Chrono is here as well. And Zai going to go down, and so will Tiny. So this is just a classic example of the Dire knowing how to deal with an IO combination. They see Tiny and they see IO, and you have to expend a lot of numbers to kill them. Otherwise, they're going to be able to relocate out. Their teammates are going to come, and they're going to be able to turn around the fight. Notice they commit both the Death Prophet as well as the Void TPs there. Night Stalker came in as well, was able to find out the IO, and after that, they're going to be able to get the kill. But this is space for Zai's team, though. Look at EG.Zai. He's doing a lot of work here. Zai's actually going to relocate himself in, just himself, as Tiny's not alive yet. He wants to save Clockwork, but unfortunately, the rest of the Dire has arrived as well. He will save Clock, I believe, but he will die for it. So it's actually super unfortunate for him. And that's why I did say that he might have just wanted to prioritize farming his mech, because he was kind of close to it, but now he's nowhere near it. He needs the full recipe now. In the meantime, it is space for EG.Zai. He's pretty fat now as he's completed his Mjolnir. He's gonna go for a blink this game. Tiny has also been following behind a lot in terms of his farm as well, but if you look at Dire's farm, they're not doing that great either, because the way you play against Tiny IO is you can't really just farm the map in an efficient manner. Notice that they've been rotating a lot in terms of just trying to kill the Tiny IO, and sure, they're getting the kills, but clearly doesn't give them as much gold. As I said, you need to commit a lot of heroes to do so, and so a lot of that gold is shared, of course, and they will not be able to get as much farm on the map as if they're able to just farm freely instead of having to chase this IO Tiny around the map. So if you look at the net worth differential, it's not really that significant considering all the deaths right now on the Tiny as well as IO. As look at EG.Zai, he has 8 death, and Tiny, he's up to 4. And notice Tiny's gonna walk straight back down the bottom lane. He does secure the tower. Hookshot comes there onto the Night Stalker, but with his new fancy ability there, he's gonna be able to fly past the cogs and get himself away from danger, while the rest of the team is pounding on the tower right now. Or say rest of the team, it's mostly just Tiny. And now they see the TP rotations coming in from the Dire, so they're going to back themselves away. EG.Zai is here, so they're ready to take a 5v4 fight. As you look, Jakiro is still in the top lane. What am I looking at? Zai will be able to save. Oh, I was on a different play perspective there, unfortunately. So let's see what happens here. So it looks like Zai will be able to keep his Dazzle alive in the Chronosphere. Didn't he have to commit his relocate as well to save Dazzle, just use the heal. They were all weaved, of course, so that's a lot of armor, and Void did not manage to kill them. This is going to turn to a huge fight for Radiant. They did lose their Tiny there, as he was left alone by Zai as he tethered onto the Dazzle, but I feel like keeping the Dazzle alive will help them secure that fight, as the sustain from him is a big deal, of course, as it is duplicated or amplified, not duplicated, as it's not quite 2 times, it's 1.5 times, but it is amplified by Zai. And so after that fight, Zai will almost have his mech. He just needs to farm a creep camp or 2 and he'll have it. In the meantime, Jakiro realized that that fight was pretty much lost for him, I believe, for his team. It was kind of too late for him to come, so he decided to just rat. Did take a tier 3 and did a lot of damage to a range rack, so as for trade, that was very good for Zai's team, but in terms of the Dire's trade, not too bad. They can hit shrines now when it comes to it, and the damage on the range racks is going to be appreciated as well. And so Zai will be able to complete his mech now. He's going to go straight into a Glimmer Cape. Very big deal, as I said before. There's a lot of damage over time, magic damage on the Dire team. One thing that's important for him to have a mech, one reason why it's important for him to have a mech is because he's not going to be able to heal himself with Bottle and Urn during these team fights, because there's just way too much damage happening, and the mech heal is very important for him to at least sustain all that damage, and the 10% magic resistance, of course, is going to be important as well to do so. And notice in that last fight, he did luck out a little bit as he had a haste rune. He would have been in a lot stickier situation if he didn't have it, but he was able to get himself very far back in the team fight and away from the Chronosphere. It is very important that Io does not get caught in Chrono. And it looks like Dire wanted to catch out Zai's team there, but they're going to be able to respond with everybody. And just look at that mech heal. That hero went almost from being dead to almost full HP, and the Chronosphere comes straight onto Io. Zai takes a ton of damage here, but notice that the 10% magic resistance is actually helping him out a lot there. He managed to survive through the fight, and when Io survives through the fight, you're having a hard time, because at that point, he's going to be healing everybody, and he goes for aggressive relocate here with EG.Zai. Does not manage to catch off the opponents, however, as they did see the relocate icon on the minimap, and they just turned tail, ran the other way, and so they will get out. Nice attempt there from Zai to try to get the stragglers as they were wanting to run away back to base. And that's the biggest thing about mid-game fights for Io, is you just want to be able to survive the fight. Surviving the fight is crucial to winning your team the game throughout the mid-game and the late game. Maybe late game not so much, but I believe in this mid-game where Io is his strongest is when he has his mech up, when he has, or if not mech, is any item to have him survive. And notice he got Chronos through that because the enemy team has to commit so much onto Io to kill him, and he just heals it all back up, and the sustain will just outlast you in the team fight. Like, let's say you're not out damaging the enemy or anything like that, but the fact that you can just out sustain them with insane heals, you're gonna be able to just clean up the team fight afterwards. And notice they went for a gank there. Let's go back and start talking about something else here. The thing about this engagement here is Zai does not have relocate. First thing, oh, there's a huge like underwater mine there, like this new map. So Clockwork goes for a hook shot here onto Sladen, but very nice play from him there just to kick the clock out and away very deep. And Zai wants to come in to save the Clockwork as he did previously, but however, unfortunately this time his team is not prepared and the Dire is. So they're all in position. The Death Prophet ult does way too much damage and they're gonna be able to clean up. So huge win for the Dire there. Ultra kill for Yawar, but of course the Death Prophet ultimate did have to be committed there. They'll have Chrono for the next fight, but they won't have DPO. And I think they will want to go for Roshan here, as they're going to head straight into it. DP finds herself a nice haste rune as well. Of course, the XOC was somewhere near the fight, but he wasn't involved as he saw the fight was pretty much over once Zai died. And the thing is, with Io is sometimes you just find yourself in those type of positions where you want to tether your teammate to survive and you immediately regret your decision. You saw there, it was a nice play from Sladen, because maybe if the Clockwork didn't get kicked back so far, that fight might have looked a little bit different. I believe Dire still would have won that fight, but it was a better chance that Zai's team might have gotten an extra kill onto another hero, potentially like the Earth Spirit or something like that. So after that fight, they will secure the Aegis onto the Faceless Void, and that's going to buy them some time, as ideally Zai's team wants to play aggressively right now with the Death Prophet ult down, but now with the Aegis they might think otherwise, as the Chrono is available for the Void, and there's going to be no chance of just bursting him before he can get it off at this point, because he does have the Aegis, right? Zai will pick up a cloak, and at this point I would start to think about ratting when I'm this tiny right now, as well as Zai. I'm thinking how I can help this tiny rat and just split push. As if you look at Dire's team, they do have a decent amount of catch, of course. Night Stalker providing a lot of vision for his team, and they're gonna walk straight into a Chrono. Very nice bubble there by EG.Zai, but Void moving very fast on Chrono, gonna be able to move in and secure the kill. Unfortunately, the Dazzle, bit of a misplay from him there, didn't grave Zai. I feel like if they did grave Zai, they might have been able to turn on this fight. Did Zai even use his mech? Yeah, he didn't even use his mech in that fight. He still had relocate as well, and that's quite unfortunate. So he will not find the grave there onto Zai, and oh, they're gonna lose a lot of heroes there. EG.Zai comes in as well with his real hero. He goes down. They lose Clockwork as well. That was a big play there from the Dire team. They did lose their Aegis, but they take out 3 and they're gonna push in. Notice that the top lane is also exposed, so once they get a creep wave into mid, they can just straight take top racks. They'll have to work through this tier 2 first, as the top wave is not quite pushed in yet. The Jakiro does get spotted out right now, and he will get pinged and taken out. Void goes on to Zai once again. This time he will not have Chronos here. Death Prophet ultimate is committed. I believe Zai, or the Dazzle, is in position to grave Zai, and Zai will live here. Or maybe not. Whoa. Silence! Or was he silenced in the last fight as well? I said misplay from him, but might have been just a good play from the War to get that silence out. We'll go back and check. I don't want to flame him. That'll give him a second chance there. He's still silenced. And so he will not be able to grave the Tiny either. This silence actually being huge in these fights. This is both Sladen as well as Yawar on top of that, making sure the Dazzle cannot cast the spells. At this point, he really wants an item to get rid of it, like a Lotus Orb or something like that. Instead, he's just going to go for a Aether Lens for the extra range. And that fight actually didn't turn out so bad. And let's go back and check now. He might have been silenced in that fight. It's actually a high chance that he was, because it seems like he was on point with his graves before. So let's see here. So you see Zai, silence gets used onto the Tiny, and here we see, yeah, War, it's on top of it. knows exactly where the Dazzle's going to be positioned, gets the silence. So yeah, I didn't catch that. Sorry, Dazzle player. It's not really your fault, as he can't really stand any further away, right, to avoid that silence, because otherwise he will not get the grave off in time. So the only way around that is just to like really try to hide himself, which is super hard. So just a good play on your war, and huge play there from Sladen as well. Getting the what is his items? He has Ags. He went for Blink Ags just to kidnap heroes. I do like this build against IO Tiny combination. It's pretty good. Can turn IO to stone, kick him back, or turn the Tiny to stone, kick him back, break the tether, things like that. But they're actually still gonna be able to turn on the fight. As EG.Zai coming in with a cleanup here. He's a very good hero in terms of holding high ground. This Arc Warden just turns up and sure to get the kill, but Arc Warden comes in, gives everyone some cancer aids, and high ground will be held. They do lose 3, but not the worst trade. Could have been a lot worse for Zai's team. Could have lost Rax there, but unfortunately Arc Warden will be too strong for the Dire to take out after committing a lot to just kill Zai and the Tiny. And game is still gonna play out. If you look at the net worth, Arc Warden is still at the top. The Dire team is slightly ahead, about 5,000 at this point, but it's not that big of a net worth difference. It's still gonna come down to team fights. It's gonna come down to these mid to late game plays, and let's see what Zai as well as this Tiny have in terms of playing in this late game, as it's actually a pretty rough late game, as we see there. Straight on to EG.Zai. Sladen turns him to stone. Zai's going to relocate himself in without the Tiny just to make sure that EG.Zai stays alive. He does get clipped by a stun there, so the tether will break between him and the Arc Warden, but looks like they're going to be able to save EG.Zai and get out as well. And one thing that a lot of IO players don't really think about is using relocate just by yourself and then tethering afterwards. If you look at the ability, a lot of times, alright, I want to just relocate my carry-in, right, and we'll get kills, but of course that's not the only usage of the ability. It's a very versatile ability. You can use it to save teammates, as we saw Zai. I don't think he used it once yet to do that. He used it to just regen his bottle or regen himself and pick up items. He did that twice. At one time it was him trying to save a teammate, but it turned up to just be him going back to base. And the thing about that is it's not really just bringing yourself back to base and healing yourself, right? Because it gives you that pool regen as well. So whoever you're tethered right afterwards, when you come back, they're going to get a little bit of a pool regen as well. So think of it like that. So you're providing some pool regen for yourself. You don't really want to take a teammate back because maybe it'll just weaken your force too much, or they don't really need to go back for any reason. They just want to farm. So you can just bring yourself back and then heal them up when you come back. He used it, I believe, twice as well to just relocate himself in to save a teammate that was in trouble. I think he used it on Clock. He did that once on Clockwork, and there you see him save EG.Zai as well. And the problem about this game is they can't really rat freely, because as I said before, there's a lot of catch on the Dire team, and not only that, nighttime is really rough for them in terms of vision. They'll have constantly lower vision than the Dire team in terms of just their wards providing less vision. Night Stalker having a lot more vision with his nighttime vision. I said vision a lot there, but it's just the name of the game right now. And for Zai's team to really win this game, they're going to have to outplay in team fights. And ratting is possible once they get a couple kills. Let's say they can take out the Night Stalker and take out Void, then ratting will be a thing. But when all 5 heroes are alive on the side of Dire, it's simply not really an option for them. So if you just notice where Tiny as well as I have been playing, it's more so on their side of the map. They're not really going for any enemy side of the map pushes or plays anymore, because at this point it's just really not possible against a Night Stalker. Who does he have an Axe? He does not have an Axe, so I mean, They won't have map hacks to spot outside, but it's still a lot of vision during the nighttime. And they have very mobile heroes as well, with Faceless Void and Sladen, of course, having a Blink and an Axe. So there's just really no option for Zai's team to play aggressively on the enemy side of the map right now. But as I say that, the Dire are going to play onto Zai's side of the map, and they're almost going to catch out the Night Stalker there. And he will be able to get away though, and now the Chronosphere going to come straight onto Dazzle. Really nice bubble from EG.Zai. It's actually doing huge work there. Keeps the Dazzle alive for so long. He still goes down, however. But this fight is going to be prolonged. Tiny gets relocated out by Zai. Let's see how this actually plays out. Tiny actually going to TP back. That's one thing that your carry can do. If they get relocated back to base, they can TP out to show back to the fight sooner, as we see the Tiny does here. But might be... nah, it's just fine. Maybe not, as the tether was actually broken between him and Zai, but looks like he should be okay. He's pretty tanky at this point, but maybe not. He went for a Blade Mail. Zai does not have his mech up quite yet. He can't heal with Bottle either because of the Magnetize, but he goes in, finds the Hex there onto Sladen, and that fight will be won by Zai's team. And we're going to go back and analyze that team fight in full, because I feel like it's a huge fight right now. Because notice what... I'll mention it when we get back to it, but just notice the start of the fight here. Oops. So first things first, Vision placed in their jungle, because they notice that the enemy will probably try to invade or go for ganks at this point, and notice that they're all grouped up as 5 as well, as it is nighttime, it's darkness actually, so they will need to be together. They can't afford to split up too much. So first things first, they go straight onto the Night Stalker. EG.Zai's illusion is doing a lot of damage in the back line, and notice where Zai's position very far back. Make sure he saves his Tiny. Clockwork, what the fuck? Alright, there's 2 wisps in the game right now, guys. What the fuck? Where's Clockwork? Oh my god, they got a second wisp. Alright, how do you lose 2 wisp? GG. So the big thing about that was Zai, he wasn't hurt at all, but he was relocating not to save himself but to save his Tiny, as Tiny was sticking out very low. He made sure that Tiny did not die. He already had used all his healing in terms of his mech. They know the Dazzle was dead as well, so there was going to be no heal coming from him. So make sure he relocated Tiny out, was able to reset the fight in a sense, right? I think that's what Aoi calls it, resetting the fight. I watched a video or something on him mentioning something like that, but or was it 1437? It was one of them. So they reset the fight there using the relocate. They're able to come back in, and EG.Zai finds the Hex there, and so at the end of the day, they're going to clean up with 2 kills while they only lose 1 there, and then Dazzle and the Chrono had to be committed there as well. And this is going to be when they can make split push plays. Notice how they're going to split up now. They notice that the Earth Spirit is dead, and he's a huge hero in terms of catch and team fight for the Dire team. And with the Earth Spirit gone, they're going to be able to split up and even just push high ground right now with Arc Warden. And they're going to pressure high ground a little bit here. Notice that Zai and Tiny are laying a little bit to the side, but now that the Earth Spirit is going to be respawning in about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, they're going to all back away. This retreat is going to be pretty important here. Let's go back to Zai's player for a second. I'm on Tiny's, so he'll TP himself out. And unfortunately, Clockwork gonna get caught out, as he's still looking like an IO, not anymore. So Clockwork gonna go down. And one thing about this game is they can't really split up that much, but EG.Zai's illusion can split, because of course it's not a real hero. They don't care if the illusion dies. Sure, it gives away some gold to the enemy team, but it can position itself in aggressive positions for them to get an IO relocate kick off. And that's a very big deal when it comes to the Radiant's late game right now. Notice the Tiny's build in this game as well. He's building straight for survivability, going for the Blade Mail just to reflect some extra damage onto the Death Prophet, Macro Fire, Magnetize as well, and gonna give him that armor, something that Tiny does lack, and is gonna go straight into an AC afterwards, as he does have a BKB just picked up now. Oh, and what is Zai doing here? Yeah, he realizes that there's a very good chance that Tiny might be in trouble here, so he's just going to relocate the Tiny away. Very heads up move there by Zai. There was, of course, we were going to see the mini map and where the enemy team was, and they're still pretty far away. But Zai was really risking nothing there, as he knows the Tiny actually doesn't have buyback, and of course their top racks is still exposed. So the Tiny dying here in the top lane would have been a very big deal, and they would have at least lost the racks, maybe the game, with the Tiny dead for so long. And so Zai gonna not mess around. It's gonna be the first, quote unquote, well, I guess the second, as he did relocate the Tiny out in the last team fight as well. His job right now is just to make sure Tiny survives at all costs, and then afterwards make sure that he survives. And if he can do both, they're gonna be able to win all these mid game team fights pretty much. As once again, they just will out sustain the Dire, and it doesn't matter how much damage Dire does. Once the healing comes in from the Dazzle, comes in from Io, they're going to be able to just outlast and clean up the fight at the end. So we see another fight break out here. Tiny already committing his BKB. We'll have to back away, and as a result, a very good Cronus here, hitting onto 3. And so all 3 gonna fall. Clockwork, Dazzle, as well as Zai. Very unfortunate for them. Tiny does find a regen rune and now expect the push to come in onto the mid lane. However, some split push potential from EG.Zai and Tiny. Maybe? No. Dazzle gonna buy back, and instead Dire gonna go for the safer player instead of deciding to push straight up. They know their ultimates are on cooldown, and at this point, if they try to push and they die, it's gonna give Roshan away to Zai's team, so they wanted to secure it for themselves. In the meantime, EG.Zai's illusion is pushing, and there's actually not much to say about Zai in this mid to late game. He's died a lot. In most of these fights, he is gonna go down, and I did say before that if he does survive the fight, it's not guaranteed to be won for his team, because, for example, like if his whole team dies and he survives, like, it doesn't mean anything. But if he keeps his team alive and he survives as well, of course they're going to clean up these fights. He does have his Glimmer Cape, and that will be a big deal for him. It looks like he did sell his bottle. He's like, alright, fuck this item. It's not going to help me that much at all. There's just way too much damage over time for the bottle to be useful anymore. So he's probably going to sell it for, or he did sell it for his Glimmer, so he would have enough gold. He's poor man status right now on the IO. Looking pretty bad in terms of his net worth. Just compare him to the enemy 4 position, Sladen. Sladen is almost the same net worth as the Tiny. And at this point, let's just do a little bit of a pause to analyze the full game situation. I feel like something's big is going to happen soon. I don't want to start talking and a fight breaks out or anything like that. It's happened multiple times in this replay analysis already. So just do a quick item check on everyone in this game right now. We look at Arc Warden, and he has a lot of aggressive items here, not much defensive items at all, but that's just because of how the hero can play. He just uses illusions to go in, and his real hero plays very far back. He did have a Hex as well as a Bloodthorn, so in terms of catch, he has a lot of it, and that will allow him to set up relocate ganks. And this is going to be the true test for Dire. How do you push against an IO lineup? Because what will happen when you push against IO lineup and the team that's playing the IO knows what they're doing? As soon as they realize you're barreling down a lane, they're going to be straight up a side lane and potentially threatening your racks. And at that point, you have to make the decision. Do you go back and defend your racks? Because especially if it's an IO Tiny with like an Arc Warden illusion TP in as well, giving that extra attack speed with the bubble, your racks is going to be traded for sure. And at this point, do you really want to trade racks when you're ahead? Of course, you have Aegis, you have Cheese, and you don't want to lose your racks for a trade. Because of course, at that point, if that continues happening, you're just gonna put your team at a bit of a weird scenario where, sure, you're ahead in terms of net worth, but you're equal in terms of racks, and that will just open up more rack plays in the future for the team with IO. And we already see Zai as well as the rest of the team are at it. They realize that Dire just picked up an Aegis, and at this point there's a high chance that they're running down the mid lane. I don't think they know it for sure yet, but they know that it is quite a possibility. They might have had some extra information on that, as I was probably busy talking, I wasn't paying attention, but I believe they did see a Death Prophet run down this mid lane. But let's just do an item check right now. Jakiro, okay, as Yule's drums, nothing two other oriented there. Night Stalker just went for the battle build. Sort of Void, he went for Blink as BKB. He's the Aegis carrier, also has the Diffusal Blade. Death Prophet has the cheese. She wants to build into Octarine, does not have it quite yet. Went for a Force Staff as well for some extra mobility. Of course, gets herself out of Clockwork's cogs. You look at Sladen, he's very farm, level 22 as well with the Midas. He has a Lotus Orb. As for the Tiny, same item as 74. Zai, we've already seen him. Clockwork, let's look. His Blade Mail, see, he has decent items, but he's still very poor. So if you look at what's going on right now, you clearly tell that Zai's team is very far behind. But once again, Dire for sure looks ahead. I guess the Death Prophet wasn't spotted. They should know something's up because ZXC for sure knows that Ghost just procs into somebody there, and they know someone's in biz. So at this point, they're probably realizing that Dire will be somewhere down the mid lane, or at least not near top at all. So they just took the Aegis, and no one is showing top at this point, and they realize that Dire's just not here. They're still gonna play safe though. Notice that they didn't commit snaking or Tiny or any of the other heroes quite yet. Instead, they just committed the Arc Ward and Illusion, and very smart play for them actually. They're gonna just bait the Dire in. They showed the Arc Ward and Illusion. The rest were hiding, and just go back and just look at that play set up from the Radiant. Very smart play, high level play as well. So this is one thing that you never see happen in low level pubs. Notice what Radiant are doing right now, except for the Arc Warden, who just sent his illusion. He's gonna put the creep wave into the enemy tower, and what does that make Dire have to do? If a creep wave is at their tower, they don't have to do it, but they're gonna do it, right? You don't want to just take free damage onto your tower for no reason. They're gonna go back and kill the creeps, and as a result, that's gonna give Radiant vision of the Dire. Well, if you look at Dire vision right now, Fog Dire, it's not working. They have no idea where Radiant is, and they're assuming Radiant's probably at their top racks. And we can rewind a little bit to see this gank being set up. Oh, maybe not. All right, they had the vision set up with his ward here, so they did see all of Dire team heading top. So I would say this is more so a mistake onto Sladen, if anything. So because if they're paying attention really closely to the enemy map, they did see that Dire have made Radiant made their way to the top lane. But notice Tiny only showed for like one wave, so they kind of forgot about it, right? And no one really pinged it out. They see the Arc Warden back here. They're like, what is he doing? And then they see Arc Warden illusion. And first things first is they're gonna go defend, right? Night Stalker gonna show himself, and Earth Spirit gonna go up here to see if he can catch anyone, because he did see the Arc Warden walk himself up here, and he's just gonna try to go for a D ward to see if they're gonna do anything like that. And immediately he gets gone on by the Tiny, as they were prepared for anyone to show up and they get themselves a gem. This is a big kill, as he doesn't have buyback as well. And remember what I said before, there's not much plays to be had when all 5 of the Dire heroes are alive, but as soon as one hero dies, and most importantly, if it's the Night Stalker or it's the Earth Spirit, because they're the main initiators, as the Void, sure, he can initiate with Chrono, but he really doesn't want to do that, especially if he doesn't have everyone to follow up, because sure, he can Chrono with someone, but they're going to be graved, they're going to be relocated out, and at that point, it can just create a messy fight, and it might just lose them the game if he commits a Chrono willy-nilly at this point. So the fact that they made that play, they killed Sladen, this is for sure, I guarantee you, the first step to Radiant securing victory in this game. Getting that huge kill into Sladen without buyback, getting the gem as well. And let's see what happens from here. So we go back to both teams, and we're going to go back to Zai's player perspective. So he's going to pick up the gem. Looks like he's going to go for a Guardian of Greaves. And there's so many plays that can be made right now. And if I'm Zai right now, I'm feeling very cautious about how we approach this next fight, because look, they're going to just send Arc Warden illusion, and they're going to have to use up in the air, so they're just doing chip damage onto this tower. And keep in mind, the creep wave is pushed in. They're going to take the tier 3. Night Stalker going to just try to cut the creeps. He realizes that he can't afford to have the creep hit, because the thing about that is, alright, imagine if the next creep wave comes in, Arc Warden is just going to do the same thing. Imagine the Chrono, right? Zai relocates the Tiny out of Chrono to the bottom lane, and then suddenly their bot racks is gone. Their top racks might just be gone as well, and they just lost 2 racks while they have Aegis and Cheese just because one of their heroes are missing. And he's a huge part of their team fight to take a fight in the base. He has the Magnetize, he has the Silence, he can turn someone to stone, kick them back, and without him, they can't fight. Because if they try to fight, for example, if they try to fight 45 at this point and Zai makes plays, Dazzle is weaving everyone up, they're making plays, they survive the Chronosphere, they survive the Death Prophet ultimate, which they should because they have a lot of armor with the weave, they're just going to straight up lose the game. It doesn't matter if they have Aegis and Cheese or not. So let's see what happens here. Night Stalker makes the decision to just cut the creeps. He really doesn't want the creeps in the base right now because every time the creeps enter the base, you're just opening up to losing racks because the creep lane or the creep wave is in top lane. It can mean that they relocate into bottom lane, take bottom racks, and the Arc Warden can also TP in. Does he have booster travel 2 yet? I don't believe he does, so he can't TP without a creep, but so he won't be able to be there. But anyway, you can still keep putting pressure on the top lane while Tiny is wailing on bot. At that point, their attention is split, and without the Earth Spirit, they're missing that extra stun, right? They have to cure with the Yule's Ice Path, but they only have Chronosphere, and Chronosphere can easily be avoided from what the Radiant heroes have. They have the Bubble, they have Dazzle Grave, they have Weave, they have Relocate, so many ways to deal with the Chrono, and without all 5, without the follow damage, you can't just commit Chrono willy-nilly, as I was saying before. But as a result, the Night Stalker gets himself caught out trying to cut the creep wave, and I believe he will go down here as EG.Zai finds him. Bloodthorn, Hex, he is gone, and now they lose 2, and at this point Dire is feeling super anxious. What are they going to do at this point? They have Aegis and Cheese, but it just doesn't matter. They're missing 2 important heroes, and at this point, Zai's team is going to go for it. They're going to go for racks. They know the Night Stalker is dead for 60 seconds. He might have buyback. They don't know that for sure, but they're just going to go for it. They will force it. If anything, they do have a lot of disengage, and nice hook shot from Clockwork. Here's the bubble from the Arc Warden, and this game is over just like that. The Jakiro's dead without buyback as well, and now unfortunately they can't claim Megas as there's still a tier 2 in the mid lane. They might try to go through backdoor and kill it. How low is it? Let's check. Still pretty healthy. Fortunately, it's not too low, so, and they're still afraid of buyback, so they're just going to back away. Not going to make any risky plays because Dire just let their top rack go. They didn't commit Chrono, they didn't commit anything like that. If the Chrono was committed or something like that, they would have gone for bottom for sure, as it's still very low. The towers was taken down previously by EG.Zai, but at this point they're just gonna take the racks. They don't know buyback status, so just gonna back away. They're like, alright, free racks. You have Aegis and Cheese, we take your racks, and you look at the net worth difference right now, and they're gonna go straight in with a Chrono onto Dazzle, but I don't know about that one. They killed Dazzle 70 seconds, but that's a huge part of Dire's team fight gone now, and it's just something that they don't have to think about anymore. And if you look at Tiny, he's completely bought out now for the Assault Cuirass. I don't have buyback in 700 gold, so we'll have to farm that up. But at this point, he doesn't really feel at risk of dying, as they do see the Chrono was used there. You are going to push into the mid lane, and keep in mind, you're asking me, why doesn't Dire just went down mid lane and push, right? Before anyone died, before any of this happened. And they're going to do it now as they're feeling, once again, like they need to do something right now, otherwise this game's gonna get away from them. But we see Relocate back into base as the Tiny actually didn't have a TP. Zai does have a TP to come back in though, and they're just gonna go for a fight. Tiny popping BKB, nice cogs from the Clockwork, pushing back Slayton. He's gonna be able to roll away. The Void loses his Aegis. Clockwork standing in a mist of flames there, and he will go down to the Death Prophet ultimate as well as the Macro Fire. He's gonna commit buyback, and they will be able to take this fight 5v4 with, or 5v6 I guess, as the Void had Aegis there. They had a Cheese as well, and once again the high ground defense of an Arc Warden is just not to be underestimated, and they will hold. And back to what I was trying to say before, and their bottom tower goes down as well, and that's a very big deal. So back to what I was trying to say before is Arc Warden was going to be able to hold high ground for a very long time on his own. And if Zai's team can just position themselves on a side lane, which they did, and Dire knew this, they're like, alright, what can we actually do here? If we just push straight down the mid lane, we did see, or at least I'm not so sure what the communication was like with the dire team, but they did see, I'm assuming at least one person saw that the Tiny headed his way top, as well as the Dazzle and the Clockwork. So the whole Radiant team was already positioned to be in the top lane, and if they just went down mid, they're going to go for a Rax trade, if any. The Arc Warden probably would have been able to defend Rax on his own, and Zai might have just been able to got two. With the relocate to the bottom lane, Arc Warden could have came in as well after he realized that some TVs were committed to go back to base. And alright, I'm going to talk as the team fight breaks out here, but I'm going to comment on this one. So, alright, let's go back here and just comment back on the game for a second. I'll go back into what I was trying to say. So we noticed that with the Night Stalker dead, they realized that they held. They used Chronosphere previously, so it should be up again, but they know that there is no Death Prophet ultimate, and the Void did have to buy back as he did get caught out. Or is this a bug? No, he didn't have to buy back. That was a bug. He died afterwards. So it's confusing me. So yeah, so I said Chrono will be committed. And we see it used here. Very big deal, as the Dazzle was actually able to get the grave there onto Zai. And notice what the fuck is going on here. Oh, let's go back from the beginning here. This shit's so bugged right now because I rewinded so many times. There's actually, all right. So they pre-weave, and now they just go straight into a push high ground. Not really afraid, as I said before, they have a lot of ways to deal with the Chronosphere. Just notice right now, they get the grave off. Zai managed to stay alive. He jukes to the side. 17 one charge, very big deal. Notice he goes immediately for a relocate however onto ZX. Well, not really immediate, but he tethers him. Realized that he needs to commit the relocate. Saves him, and a weaved Radiant team is just so strong at this point, and they managed to get ZXYC out alive. Zai's gonna come back in. Will he be able to save Tiny? That's the question. He does bring ZXYC back as he summoned his illusion and did TP that one, and he'll come back. He won't be able to tether the Tiny to heal him, but it won't really matter as they're already cleaning up. The Void gets bursted as ZXYC comes back in with the Bloodthorn. Now they're gonna commit another weave here, and the armor is just so much. Once the weave stacks up, they don't really take any damage from physical damage at all, and sure, the magic damage is still high for the dire team, but it's gonna force them to like use their spells, and once their spells are done, of course, it's one and done, right? And they're committing their big ultimates like the Macro Fire and the Magnetize, and they're on cooldown. While the healing for Zai isn't really. He can always heal with the Urn, he can heal with his Greaves. It's on a relatively low cooldown. Dazzle can always heal up as well. ZXP actually ended up going down there, but oh no! Pretty big error there. It was either I would say it's more so on Zai for that one. Maybe, or maybe not. Let's check this. No, it's on the Tiny. It's on the Tiny for sure. Or no, it's on Zai. Okay, so he gets silenced. He stops being silenced. What happened? Alright, so he tethers Tiny. He's still tethered to him, he's still tethered to him, he's still tethered to him. He's gonna pick up an Invis and he relocates bottom. In the meantime, Tiny left. Alright, so it is on Tiny. Because he thought he was still tethered. And as a result, he might just die here. They probably wouldn't have got the bottom racks though. Or maybe not. As the dire team was there, it does result in Zai dying. This is something that happens. It's unfortunate. The Tiny says sorry with the chat wheel. So what Zai was trying to go for there, I'm sure it's obvious, right? He wanted to relocate Tiny to the bottom racks. He saw he was being pursued by a Death Prophet. He knows that's at least one hero that wasn't able to be there immediately. At least, she actually doesn't have a TP or a boost of travel. It's in her backpack, so it'll take her a while to get to the bottom lane. They wanted to go bottom, just go take their mega creeps, but there was heroes there ready, so I don't think Tiny would have been able to get the megas, but at least it would have done a lot of damage to the racks and probably would have taken them ranged. The thing to note here is actually ZXWC doesn't have buyback. Zai doesn't have buyback either, but he decides that he will just buy out for his Ghost Scepter. He doesn't really need to buy back at this point, because once again, Arc Warden insanely good at holding high ground. They might lose a ranged here, but I'm pretty sure their melee will survive. They have Fort as well. The problem for them is there's actually 2 catapults hitting right now. And top wave is pushing in, and with top wave pushing in, the relocate play can come out from Zai, and he can just clean up that bottom racks. So Dire is on a timer right now. If they don't take this racks before creep wave enters their base, they will have to back immediately, otherwise they're going to lose mega creeps. And even if they do take the mid racks and they lose mega creeps for it, it will not be worth it, of course. So it looks like they will be able to take the racks. They had to commit the DP ultimate for it, as once again they were on a timer, and if they didn't take the racks right there and now, when are they going to, right? This is their best opportunity with IO dead, and with Radiant really not wanting to take a 4v5 fight at this point, because once again EG.Zai's buyback is on cooldown. And this might just be game. I was mentioning this like about 20 minutes ago, how this was a potential play, and I think Dire just stopped thinking about it. Because once again, anytime EG.Zai can TP onto a creep wave, not even with his real hero, just with his illusion, he might be in a little bit of trouble here. So he did commit his real hero in here as well, and he might go down. He will go down. He's also dead without buyback, so it's not necessarily a game as 2 heroes are dead on both sides without buyback, and it's 2 big heroes. But they're going to go in aggressively as they realize that without Chrono to worry about, they're going to go straight in here for some kills. Unfortunately, Zai going to get rooted up by the Death Prophet, but she's in a little bit over her head here with the Solar Crest onto her. There's some clowny Lotus Orb plays there. And at this point, I think Zai is thinking about the bottom racks. They might be thinking of cleaning up this fight. They might be thinking about the bottom racks. If Tiny's in any trouble at all, Zai's going to relocate him out to the bottom racks, and they're going to end the game. Or get mega creeps at least. At this point, they still want to take a fight. I think if Tiny gets a little bit more hurt, or Zai gets a little bit more hurt, he's going to go bottom. No, they're just going to try to fight it out. They know the Void doesn't have buyback. The Weave is also on the Death Prophet as well, and they realize no rat play is needed. It probably would have been the better play just to secure the game, as a lot of these heroes do have buyback, I believe. Night Stalker actually doesn't. The Earth Spirit does. And so they're going to take a fight the whole time, and they will kill the Jakiro, forcing him to buy back. But now they're going to focus their attention on the bottom racks. They're going to pop BKB. They're going to take it out once again without the Void. They can't really fight. There's no lockdown. Zai going to relocate the Tiny out. He's probably just going to leave him in base, as the rest of the team already died. But of course, they did get mega creeps, and at this point, it's kind of one all-in play for Dire. Did he get the oh no. Once again, it's pretty hard to time. And so Zai will go down. It's worth a try. He doesn't have buyback, so it's a bit unfortunate for him. But once again, the Dire also lost a tier 4 here. And I would say this game was won with that move up in the top lane, with that death onto the Earth Spirit. Just, that was such a big deal, because I said it about 20 minutes, 10 minutes before that, where Dire team is very strong when they're all 5 alive. They're in position to go for ganks. They're ready to go, right? But once one hero dies, their lines are broken, especially if that hero doesn't have buyback. And at that point, there's so many more plays opened up to Zai's team, and we saw it there. They were able to pretty much threaten a racks from the Dire. They actually got the racks, and that was with Dire having Aegis and Cheese. That was just off of one death onto Sladen without buyback. And it was all set up by a really smart play, using Arc Warden to pressure a creep wave into the tower. At this point, they're maybe a little bit worried here, as actually, oh, he's gonna commit Chrono onto Arc Warden and Illusion. That's important. He goes down. Tiny doesn't go down. He buys back. Zai is still not alive, of course, as he was dead without buyback. I believe they're just gonna relocate straight in to go for Throne. Arc Warden can go in as well, or they're just gonna walk down mid and go Throne. Not sure what's happening. Zai's actually just going to relocate himself, give the extra attack speed to EG.Zai. He should be safe doing so, because he has a lot of defensive items. Has Ghost Scepter, has his Glimmer as well. And yeah, the extra attack speed, I won't say it was needed, but it's appreciated. So they're going to get thrown there as EG.Zai TP's in, and at that point, I mean, of course, playing against Mega Creeps, losing your tier 4s against IO, it pretty much secures your fate unless you can just go straight mid and go for the all-in. And they tried for it, didn't work out. Did kill Tiny, bought back, whatever, and they ended the game. Tiny wasn't even needed there. So that was actually really good replay to watch, and there's a lot to learn from it. In terms of how to play the early game, right? There was a lot there where you saw that making use of level timings in the early game, a very big deal. It did help out that Zai started with a bottle there. I don't think they were able to play such as aggressively without Zai having a bottle immediately. And being in the off lane, they didn't really have the use of the courier. Of course, mid wants it first for his early items or whatever. So I don't think Zai would have had a bottle there, but they could have probably made the same play with just like tangos or the regen from that, because the bottle regen actually didn't really matter at the end of the day because Zai did get hit by a dual breath. That was the reason why Clock did die there. So I actually don't think the bottle mattered too much there. If it did matter, it would have mattered if they somehow got the Clockwork out. But unfortunately, they're playing against Jakiro. If it wasn't Jakiro, Clockwork would actually live there. So a very big play there, making sure as soon as they hit level 2, they went for a kill attempt on the Jakiro. If they didn't get it, they would have probably been able to get away, right? Or it was pretty much guaranteed. They know that Clockwork is going to be able to lock the Jakiro in. He's a pretty slow hero, right? Bad turn rate as well. And they were able to catch him. And even playing against 3 heroes, right? Of course, 2 heroes, level 2 each, right, are going to have access to 4 abilities. If you look at the Dire team, right, they had 3 heroes, but they're all level 1, so they had access to just 3 abilities. So 4 abilities versus 3 abilities, it doesn't always work out like that, but it usually ends up winning the fight at that point. Especially with an IO having extra bottle regen, regen for both heroes, you're going to be able to win the fight even if you're going for a little bit of a dive. So we saw that there in the early game. Noticed that he immediately started with the TP with his bottle, made sure that he was always prepared to TP out, save or TP to another lane, save his other teammates. We saw that there in the mid lane, and he TP'd in, saved the Tiny, or just healed him up a little bit there. Attempt for a gank there onto the Death Prophet. Of course, he was too hard to kill, but notice he always had a TP on hand to save the lane. It did pay off one time, huge there against the Death Prophet, when the Death Prophet tried to go for a kill onto the Tiny. It was turned around with Dazzle being in good position and Zai being able to TP in as well. I think Dazzle made pretty good plays this game as well. Did flame a little bit there for a Misgrave, but he was silenced, so I take that back. ZXOC also played really well, and I think Zai's team just played more so as a team. You look at Dire, there's probably a bit of a communication issue. They might have had a little bit of proving action here. Let's check it out. Oh, who is this? 8K. I'm pretty sure this guy's a toxic player. Just looking at his names. You got niggas with attitudes. Talking with me again, please. Feed, be feed. 1v9 all games. TY. MMR suicide bomber. Random and feed, or feed and feed. Looks like a somewhat cancerous player there. On the Night Stalker. We got Sladen. His English, I mean, yeah, I think he speaks English, but it's not the greatest. You look at Yawar, he's probably not talking. Yawar is kind of cancerous as well. So even though the Dire had the better team fight lineup, they fell apart. Zai picked them apart with the IO. They made a lot of good plays. Don't get me wrong about that. Throughout the mid game, they're catching out Zai time and time again, and that's just a lot of information as well in terms of how to counter IR, right? You have to always bring a full force, and you gotta go straight for the IO, otherwise he's gonna relocate the carry away and you just wasted your time. So every time they went for Zai first, and then they tried to look for the Tiny, and a lot of times the Tiny actually went back in, and he could have lived there, but they kind of had, once again, I said it in the commentary where I said save your teammate syndrome, where they kind of came back in. They should have just let Zai die in hindsight, but just not what happened. So they lost a lot of mid-game fights because of that, where they just wanted to save IO and save Zai, and that's gonna hurt them a little bit when it comes to the mid to late game. But once again, it's actually strange when you look at the Dire. This is their time to end the game. All right, we're gonna try to end the game, and this is actually the riskiest time for them, because anytime when you're playing against an IO strategy and you're not overwhelmingly ahead. And by overwhelming, I mean like 20k, 30k gold ahead of the enemy team. They're only about 10k ahead, 15k, maybe close to that. Let's look at the graphs. Yeah, they're about 10, a little bit above 10k ahead. So that was at their time where they wanted to end the game, and they're not overwhelmingly far ahead, and they want to end the game. That's actually the riskiest part of their game. They're just changed, but that's what happens when you're playing against IO's strategy, and that's where they actually lost the game, where they should have been winning the game. They lost the game there, as they were not quite sure how to handle the push coming out from IO Tiny in the top lane. They did see it come in. They know that they had to respond to it, but then a very nice play by all of the Radiant where they hid themselves made sure that they just wanted to bait someone in, and they see Sladen, who wanted to just go for a bit of D ward. He wasn't really thinking at that point, right? Did see, I'm assuming his team, someone on his team saw all the heroes head up to the top lane as they had a ward there, but they're like, they might have TP'd back, who knows? They're probably not gonna kill me. I'm just gonna roll in, get a quick D ward. He was gonna not spend that much time there, right? He just wanted to roll past the cliff just to check for a ward, because they did see hero. I'm pretty sure he saw heroes in the area if he was gonna try to go for that D ward. So he thought they were just playing aggressively, trying to get some aggressive wards out and things like that. He did not expect that they would be ready, not only ready, but immediately gonna jump onto him as soon as he rolled himself across that cliff. And with the Tiny immediately jumping on him, he ends up dying and actually just loses his team the game. Well, this is the beginning of the team losing the game, as they lose the racks there, and it forced them to feel a little bit of pressure. They went mid afterwards, and then they just lost team fight after team fight. The big deal about that was the Night Stalker also got cut out because he realized they were in big trouble with the Earth Spirit dead. He wanted to buy time by cutting the creeps, which was not a bad play, but unfortunately, when you're playing against an IO Tiny, reload kit's gonna come. The XOC was able to set up the kill, and afterwards they were just take over the game, because at all points it doesn't feel like Dire was together anymore. They were always missing a hero. Someone was always out of position, and once the rack starts falling, once you're able to split the enemy team up, when you have the IO strategy, it's the beginning of the end for them, and that's how Zai was able to win this game. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay commentary, this analysis so far. Not so far. It is at the end right now, because I'm going to try to end things out, as it's been a long 1 hour and 30 minutes almost, but I feel like there's a lot to learn from this one. I'll do more of these in the future. Once again, I did do this just as I woke up, so sorry if I sound a little bit off in some cases. I'm trying to saying a little bit of gibberish here and there, but English is hard, everybody. English is hard, but it's a very nice replay. There's a lot to be learned from it. I felt like I went through everything here at the end. Late game IO as well. We did see the relocates used to go for the racks there. Unfortunately, they misplayed that a little bit as a Tiny broke the tether. And this game covered pretty much everything you need to know about the hero through the mid game, early game, and the late game. So it's a very good replay, actually. So I like that. D2Bowie, shout out to him. I'm gonna give him a shout out in the I don't think he needs a shout out for my channel, but shout out to D2Bowie. I'll give him a shout out on Twitter when I make when I upload the video. But anyway, I really like that he drew my attention to this replay, because it's just one of the best replays of IO that I've been able to go through in a pub. Out of my own replays, there's a couple of good replays, but it usually ends up where you just straight up stomp the game. I think there was a nice replay as well. I might do that of my own replay, and it might be coming tomorrow. It was with BSJ. I didn't play the best in that game, and that's why I initially didn't want to cover it. And I think going over some of my mistakes as well, probably something you can learn from. But I'm gonna end the replay analysis here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, already said that, but for all you guys actually checking out my content right now, as I'm just starting out, I'm trying to upload daily, but it's really hard to figure out new content every day. I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna find a replay. I'm looking at the highlight channels, whatever, any interesting replay I'm gonna do analysis of, and I'm gonna try to keep it daily, guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one, as I'm saying that the third time, and peace out, everyone.